Hi, my name is Ben Conway and I'm the co-founder and COO of VNTANA. We're a 3D infrastructure platform that allows companies to manage, optimize, and distribute 3D assets at scale. We built VNTANA because 3D is no longer optional. It's becoming an imperative for companies in all different sorts of industries. From fashion to furniture to industrial, companies are seeing 3D affect their bottom line in very positive ways. They're seeing a reduction in the number of physical samples and prototypes that they need to produce, which results in lower cost and better sustainability. And they're also getting to market faster than ever before by making better design decisions with 3D. On the sales side, companies who've implemented 3D on their e-commerce sites have seen increases in conversion of up to 200% and a reduction in returns of up to 40% because customers are able to better understand the product they're buying by using 3D and augmented reality. Now, if it's so great, why isn't everyone adopting it? Well, one of the main barriers right now is the fact that existing infrastructure is not set up to support 3D. Content management systems, DAMs, PLMs don't have 3D support, they don't have 3D web viewers, and your files are much too large to live in a web-based environment. They're in the wrong file formats, they're huge, and they won't work. This is where VNTANA steps in. Normally, a 3D artist would have to manually optimize each 3D asset by hand so it was small enough to meet the specifications of the various platforms. Amazon, Google, Meta all have different specifications, and you might even want a different format for your e-commerce site. What VNTANA does is automatically reduce files by up to 99% using our intelligent optimization. This saves your team hundreds or thousands of hours in a year and lets you go to market faster than ever before. Our headless architecture allows you to integrate with all of your existing infrastructure. So 3D becomes a bolt-on capability. Using our APIs, you can connect to DAMs, PIMs, PLMs, CMSs, and manage and distribute your 3D assets where they need to go. We also provide an embeddable web viewer as both an iframe and as a JavaScript component, so you can really use it wherever you need to be able to use it. In this video, I'm going to show you some of the best features of the VNTANA platform. We're looking forward to building the future of 3D with you. Adding a new product to the platform is easy. I can click Add Product on the left-hand side of the screen or in the top right. Here I can upload assets by dragging and dropping, or I can upload from a folder. We accept OBJ, FBX, STL, zipped files, which is what you would use if you have an OBJ, an MTL, and the textures associated with it, GLB or GLTF, and USDZ files. The USDZ files we accept currently are only scans, but we will be adding support for other types of USDZ files and USD files in the future. So I'm going to upload an asset. I'll take some of these test assets, select multiple, and click open. By default, we're going to use whatever the file is named as the name of your product. The first thing you're going to want to do is select where these files came from. We will optimize your file differently based on where it came from. Browseware exports files a little bit differently than Clo, which is different than 3D scans, Keyshot, etc. So we can maximize the optimization based on knowing where this product came from. So I'll say these are 3D scans to start. Next, I have the ability to set a preset. So I can select an existing preset, like Ben's preset, or if I change some of these settings, let's say I increase the texture aggression, for instance, it will give me the option to save a new preset. Now you don't have to save a new preset. We find it's the best way to get consistent results, especially across multiple users in your organization. And so here I have the option to either overwrite an existing preset, so I could overwrite Ben's preset, or I could save as a new preset and let's call it default, for instance. And now I have the ability to extend this to the entire organization or only have this preset available for this folder. I'm not going to overwrite that right now. Instead, I'll come here and select Ben's preset. We'll get more into these optimization settings in a little bit, but I want to come down to the tags and attributes section. So here I can add metadata about the files, so maybe they're part of my fall collection, for instance, so I'll select that tag. I can also create new tags directly from here, or I might add an attribute. So let's say that I know these are all blue, so I might have colorway here, and the value is blue. Attributes are often used when we have things like MSRP, and let's say $99. Very specific values. Then I'm going to come up here and I can click create. And when I click create, it will upload the files to the platform and automatically convert them, process them, and optimize them. If I click on these three dots, I've got two other options. I can click create and publish. And what that means is that the links that are generated for the web viewer will automatically be live when you click create and publish. By default, they're not live so that someone has the ability to review them. Or I can click create and send for review. This is something you would use if you were a content manager in a folder, for instance. You don't have the ability to publish content, so you might send it to a manager to approve it before it's able to go live to the outside world. Here, I'm going to just click create. Once I click create, I'm going to see a loading screen for a second, and then I'm going to see that these files are currently being uploaded. If I click on a file, I can see that it's going to be uploading in the background. After the file uploads, you're going to see a pending state, then processing, and ultimately it'll move to a draft state once it's completed. Once it's been uploaded, you then have the ability to review the file and click publish, and then you can share it elsewhere. When you're adding an asset to the VNTANA platform, you have the ability to control your optimization settings. You can also control your optimization settings when you're editing an individual product or bulk editing your products. The first thing you're going to want to do is select where did the asset come from, and we call this pipelines. We optimize assets differently based on where they came from. Each program has its own quirks, so you're going to want to make sure you pick the correct pipeline here. Certain pipelines like convert only will do just that. All they're going to do is convert the asset to USDZ, FBX, and GLB. So you can use convert only if you don't want us to do anything to the asset. When assets run through the VNTANA optimization engine, we're first sanitizing them, and in that process, we're fixing flipped normals on the asset, we're fixing polygon windings, and we're just cleaning up a lot of maybe messiness that exists in the 3D file. We'll also remove a bunch of extraneous metadata that will bloat file size, but isn't actually going to change the way your asset looks visually. So let's first select where this came from. Let's say it came from Clo, for instance. Next, I'm going to come to my geometry optimization. So almost always you're going to want to have this on. The VNTANA intelligent optimization algorithm can automatically stop itself when it sees that it's over-optimizing or over-decimating an asset. So we recommend that you always keep geometry optimization on. We also usually recommend that you keep remove obstructed geometry on. What remove obstructed geometry does is it removes any geometry in the asset that is not visible. So picture an avatar that then is dressed. The avatar is a single mesh. Then you might have multiple meshes in the clothing that are overlaid on top of the avatar. What our remove obstructed geometry algorithm will do is it will actually remove any parts that are not visible, even if they're attached to other meshes. So for instance, with the avatar example, we would remove everything below the neck of the avatar, below the wrists, and above the ankles, but we'd still preserve the hands, the feet, and the head of the avatar. So it's really quite powerful, and we recommend keeping it on most of the time. Next, you can set your polygon limit. By default, we set our limit to 75,000. This is the target poly count that you're trying to hit. Again, as I mentioned, the intelligent optimization engine will actually stop itself if it can't achieve that target. So we have a bunch of safeguards built into the algorithm to stop it from over-decimating. So 75,000 is a pretty good limit. That's why we have it as our default, but you can feel free to tweak that number based on what you need with your assets. Force polygon limit will cause us to override many of the safeguards that we have in place to try and achieve that polygon count. If you're close, let's say you were at 100,000 and you're trying to get it to 75 or 50,000, you might be totally okay by using force polygon limit. But if you're at 500,000 and you're trying to get to 50,000, you might run into some issues. We can't guarantee the quality every time when you click force polygon limit, so we suggest that you play with it for your assets. Next, we have Draco compression. Draco compression reduces the amount of file size that the geometry data in your asset takes up in the overall file size of the asset. So we generally see that compress assets by 4 to 6x on the geometry side of things. So let's say if you had a 10 megabyte asset and the geometry was taking up 5 megabytes, we might expect that to be 1 megabyte of geometry and 5 megabytes of textures after applying Draco compression. It's very safe to have on. Technically it is lossy, but we recommend having Draco compression on if you're going to be embedding this in e-commerce, B2B, etc. If you're downloading an asset and uploading it somewhere else, it's possible they may not support Draco compression. In that case, you'll want to have it off. Shopify supports it, Snap supports it, but many other platforms do not. If you're going to be using the VNTANA viewer and embedding using VNTANA, we highly recommend you keep Draco compression on. Draco compression only applies to the GLB. So it only applies to GLTF, GLB assets. Next, we come to texture compression. So what texture compression does is it reduces the amount of file size that the textures are going to take up in your asset. The first thing you're going to want to think about with texture compression is your maximum resolution. Now, max resolution doesn't mean that we're atlasing all of your textures into a single 2K texture in this example. What it means is we're clamping the maximum resolution size for any individual texture. So if you're using a scanned asset, they might be 8K. In this case, we downres that to 2K. That's a simple example. Usually there's just, a single material when you're using a 3D scan. However, with apparel assets or footwear assets, oftentimes you have many, many materials, many textures. And so what this will do is clamp the maximum size of any one of those textures to 2K. We also offer 1K, 512, 4K, or unbounded. In the unbounded example, we're not going to clamp your texture size. The next thing that the algorithm does is that it will actually resize your textures based on a target texel density. So we will crop and resize those assets. Texel density is measured in pixels per meter. And basically, depending on the pipeline you've chosen right here, we have different target texel densities that are set. We also have the ability to customize pipelines. So if you think that it's not hitting the quality that you want, we can always change that target texel density on the back end for a given pipeline. So we resize and crop those textures, and then we'll convert all of those textures to JPEGs unless it's transparent, in which case we'll leave it as a GMP or PNG. And finally, we will compress the textures using regular JPEG compression. So this controls how aggressively you're going to compress those textures. So a 0 is just straight conversion, 1 is mild compression, and it goes on from there. Generally, you can get away with a 2 or a 3 without really noticing any difference in quality. If you go above that, you might see a little bit of degradation. If you have a black asset that's shiny, you might need to bring it down a little bit more. That's where you can really start to see some artifacts from compression. Two other things that you'll see here are KTX compression and bake ambient occlusion. KTX compression is a special type of compression that reduces the GPU footprint, the GPU memory that's required to process an asset. Where this can be really helpful is with browseware assets that might have many, many textures when you're exporting them. In that case, we'd recommend using KTX compression. Again, everything else works the same. It's just a different form of compression, and it will only apply right now to the GLB. It doesn't apply to USDZ or FBX. Then we have the bake ambient occlusion. So the optimization engine actually has the ability to bake an ambient occlusion map directly into your asset. Clo and Browseware do not export with ambient occlusion maps, so using this will help enhance the realism of your asset. Ambient occlusion is kind of like the global shadows, the small shadowing you see in real life around the edges of things, not just the shadow that's cast by the sun shining on a lamppost, for example. We recommend keeping texture compression on in almost all cases. If you need to improve the quality, feel free to up the resolution or bring down the aggression a little bit, but still you're going to want to keep it on. Textures are generally the biggest source of file size in 3D models. Next, we have 3D model scaling, and so we have the ability to scale your asset based on an individual axis. So we'll actually lock the axis. So let's say I had a couch and I uploaded it and the couch looked really small in augmented reality. What I can do here is say, hey, this couch is actually 2 meters wide. And so what we'll do is we'll resize that asset, and all of the processed assets, the GLB, the USDZ, and FBX, will now be the correct size. I can also change this to centimeters, meters, or inches if I want to. And this will allow your asset to look good in augmented reality the way that it should without you having to go back to a program. Down here we have pivot point alignment. Now this is usually used for virtual try-on cases, or Meta, for example, wants your assets to all be bottom centered. So we generally default to moving your pivot point to the center of the asset. We give you the option to do bottom center, or we can not adjust it at all. That's totally up to you. So those are the main optimization settings that you can control. A final note is that Our optimization engine is made up of about 30 to 40 different individual flags, so we have the ability to control a lot about the way that we optimize these assets. So if something isn't looking right or something doesn't seem it's not meeting your needs, please reach out to someone at VNTANA and we can probably create a custom pipeline for you very quickly just by changing the flags in the optimizer. Some examples of this are stopping merging meshes so we can preserve individual meshes if we wanted to do that, or compressing normal maps more aggressively than we compress diffuse maps, or really you'd probably want to do the opposite, but you get the point. When I click on a product, it's going to bring me to the product detail page. Here I've got the web viewer, as well as some stats: file size, poly count, tries, and vertices. Here I can see that this asset was optimized by 98.7%, with the file size going from 288.1 megabytes to 3.7. We'll be adding more stats here periodically. I can also view more information about the product. For instance, any tags or attributes that are associated with this product. Down here is the product ID, also referred to as the UUID. This is a unique identifier that is generated by the VNTANA platform and you may use if you're leveraging the VNTANA API. Down below I can see optimization settings, so which pipeline was used, what were the geometry settings, texture compression settings, etc. I can also see all of the different file types I have here and download them individually if I'd like to. We offer GLB, FBX, which is set up for game engines like Unity and Unreal. You can also leverage our Unity and Unreal plugins, which are available in the VNTANA resources section, and USDZ, which is used for Apple. We also have an analytics summary on a per product basis. Up at the top, I have my edit button where I can edit these optimization settings if I would like to, or add metadata like tags or attributes, as well as the publish, deactivate, and reconvert button. Reconvert will just cause the asset to reprocess if for some reason you need to reprocess your asset. On the product detail page, I'm able to interact with my 3D model via VNTANA's 3D web viewer. So here I can rotate the model by clicking and rotating around. If I hold Shift and click, I can pan the model and drag it around. Up at the top, I have a bunch of settings. So on my camera settings, I have the ability to rotate the model and set the position. Setting the position will cause this model to always load in this position wherever it is embedded. I'm going to reset it to default. Target point is basically the center point of the model. What's the center that we're loading from? So here you can kind of see when I move it by shifting, it looks a little off. I can set that if I want to, so that it always loads in this exact position. Oftentimes you're not going to want to do that. Really only if your center point is off might you want to use that. So I'm going to click reset to default here. I can click auto rotate and this will cause my model to automatically rotate. And I can also control the speed. So I can go fast at 3 or I can go really slow at 0.5. And this will happen automatically. Additionally, I have the ability to set my minimum zoom or my maximum zoom. I can override my default limits. So by default, I can't zoom in any further than this, but if I click override, it would allow me to do so. Or I could disable zoom, and this will prevent users from zooming in and out on your model. Next, we come to the lighting section. So exposure adjusts how bright is my environment map. And I can see that by clicking Show Environment in Background. We have a bunch of environment maps to choose from, a lot from Browseware, as well as some other maps. You'll also be able to upload your own environment map soon. I can change my background color: white, light gray, gray, dark, and transparent. Transparent appears as white when you look at the VNTANA platform, but actually it would display whatever's behind it. A good example of this is VNTANA.com. You can see some 3D models where we have a different web page behind it rather than a box for the viewer. Next, I have the ability to adjust my shading model. So there's two different types of shading that we offer, diffuse and metallic. Generally speaking, diffuse is going to work a lot better with your organic materials. Metallic is going to work better, exactly like it sounds, metallic materials. So if you had a car or a refrigerator or something like that, you might want to choose the metallic shading model. Otherwise, I'd probably default to diffuse. Next, I come to my lighting intensity. So there are actual physical lights in the scene. And what I mean by that is that there are lights that are pointing down at this asset. Adjusting the lighting intensity adjusts how bright those lights are going to be on your asset. You can also change the color of the light that is shining on this model. Generally speaking, we leave it at white, and you're going to keep your lighting intensity probably a little bit on the lower side. Next, I have the ability to use ambient occlusion maps or not use ambient occlusion maps. So it's a little difficult to see on this model, but you can see up at the top right here, there's some shadowing that goes away. And so that's just showing and hiding those. Next, I have the ability to adjust my shadow intensity. You can see that on the floor. I can adjust how soft it is. I can adjust where the position on the floor is, so move it up or down. Then I come to model orientation. Most customers we see using this are in the footwear industry where a shoe is rotated the wrong way. So here I could type in 90 and it's going to turn the pants 90 degrees. I could rotate the pitch if I wanted to. And what's going to happen here is that it's actually going to change the position of the model and write that into the file itself. So your new optimized outputs will have this new positioning. So you'll see a reprocessing after you adjust the orientation of the model here. And then I would simply click save and it's going to reprocess the model. I'm going to click reset to original. Finally, we have post-processing filters. So SMAA is a type of anti-aliasing filter. What it can do is basically make edges appear smoother and softer than they would otherwise appear. It's usually used in assets like jewelry, for instance. A lot of our customers will use that. We also have a sharpen filter, and you can see here that my image is getting a little bit sharper. And we have bloom. Bloom is really only going to be relevant for assets that have the effect of radiating light. So again, think something like jewelry is where you might want to use that. And then you can play around with the threshold or the radius to see what's right for you. Finally, we have the tone map. And so the tone map basically changes the tones of the asset. So we offer a linear one as well as ACES filmic. That's our default, but you can also do linear if you feel like this matches more closely to the color that you're seeing on your screen in your program. And remember, you always have to save your changes after you make them. So here I would click save, and once I click save, it's actually going to deactivate this asset. And so then you'll have to republish it. This is because we want to make sure that any changes are approved before they go live. In the viewer, I also have debug tools. Debug tools allow me to debug the asset and view more detail about the geometry of the asset by clicking on wireframe right here. And you can choose the color of that. So it could be white, red, whatever is easiest to see. If you click the little checkerboard, it'll bring it back to nothing. I also have various debug channels. So here I can check my UVs. I can check my metallic values, roughness values, occlusion maps, etc. I also have the ability to bring out my vertex normals if I want to check those out. Here we give you an option for multiple cameras if your GLTF file has multiple cameras added to the file. The VNTANA platform also has annotating and commenting functionality. You can click on the Annotations button on the right-hand side with the little chat box. To add an annotation, simply click Add, and then select the place on the model where you want to add the annotation. For instance, I might ask Anna to try a different puller. Anna will receive a notification that I've tagged her on this model. I can also add attachments when I'm replying to the model or when I'm creating it the first time. Additionally, when you re-upload a fixed version of this model, we will preserve the annotations in the same place in 3D space. So if Anna uploaded a new version of this product with a different puller, I could see that and come over here and resolve this annotation. In addition to annotations, we also offer a comment section down here where I could do something like, "This looks great." Or I could attach images. So under our attachment section, we give you the ability to attach images. So you could have renders from Clo or Browseware, You could have a tech pack, any PDF, JPEG, image format you're able to add directly here to this attachments section. I also have the ability to add hotspots to a model. While annotations are internally facing, hotspots are public facing. So hotspots allow you to add a point of interest on the model. This can be text, so I could say something like water resistant and post that. I can also add an image if I'd like to by uploading an image, or I can add a video. To add a video, you can copy and paste a YouTube or Vimeo link, click attach. Here I posted a video on puffy jackets, and then you're going to want to make sure that you click publish so this is accessible. And now if I hover over the hotspot, click on it, I can see the text, or I can see the video and click play, and it will actually play directly within the window. To embed a 3D file, I'm going to come down here, and here I see I've got my iframe. Iframe is the exact same embed code that you would use if you were embedding a YouTube video, except this time it's a 3D viewer. So to copy the iframe, I click this copy embed code button, and then I would simply paste it into WordPress or Squarespace or something like that. We also have tutorials there, same with Shopify. Or I can click copy share link. What copy share link will do is it'll actually just take out this center portion right here, HTTPS, and this is something that can just be shared in an email. So the iframe is used for embed, but this embed link is just this link that I've highlighted right here that you'd be able to use in an email to share with a colleague. So if you wanted to send a link to someone, you would just click this arrow button and then you would paste it. We also offer a few other functionalities. So if you didn't want people to be able to view it in full screen, for instance, you'd click that and that would go into the iframe. If you wanted to hide the AR button, you would click that and that would go into the iframe. Or if you only wanted to hide the AR button on desktop, you would click that. Domain source allows you to track on our analytics page where this is being viewed. So in this case, an example would be VNTANA.com, and I'd be able to track all the views on VNTANA.com specifically versus if someone sent it in an email, for instance. So embedding is really, really, really simple. If I want to see what an embed looks like, I click this share link, I open up a new tab, paste it. Oh, it's not published. So you're always going to want to make sure that you click this publish button and that your asset is set to the live state. Then I can reload this. And now I see my interactive 3D asset. Notice that I don't see a full screen button and I don't see an AR button. That's because these options were checked down here. If I get rid of all of those, click the copy share link again, paste it, and now I can see my full screen button right here and my view and AR button. View and AR will pull up a QR code if you're on desktop, or if you're on a mobile device, it will take you directly into augmented reality. You can also create a configurator on the VNTANA platform. The way that our configurator works that's built into the platform is we'll actually group multiple GLB models together. So rather than having to create a custom model that has a bunch of textures built into a single GLB model, we can actually associate multiple models together. So if I take a look and I search puffer, I return these results. Let's say I wanted to create a configurator with these 3 jackets. I'll select them here, click add to configurator, and I can call it puffer jackets. I can also add it to an existing configurator. If I click save and click on my configurator view, I'll now see this. Here I can see that I've got the 3 models in the same viewer, but 2 of them are in draft mode. I can just come down here, click publish, and it will publish these. To share the configurator, you're simply going to click the share link right there, paste it. Oh, it's not published. You need to publish the configurator separately from the individual products. So if I refresh this, I can see that I can view multiple models in the same configurator. The hotspots are individual to each model. It's basically treating this the exact same way that it would treat the individual iframe, except you have the ability to click on these various models. But again, these models don't even need to be associated. So if I come back here, and let's say I want to add this full outfit, I can click Add to Configurator, Add to Existing, puffer jackets, click Save, and now I can see that this model is also a part of the configurator. In addition to the configurator built into the platform, VNTANA also has a fully customizable configurator if you need to swap meshes, parts, textures, etc. Reach out to a VNTANA representative if you want to learn more about that product. When using our Clo or Browseware plugins, we will automatically group multiple colorways together, so you don't need to worry about creating an individual colorway or individual configurator per style. You can also create a configurator when you're adding a product. So if I'm uploading multiple products, and let me just select a few test assets here, I have this option to create or add a configurator. And again, you can create a new one or add to an existing directly from the product upload page. When you want to share your assets with internal teams or maybe B2B buyers, our showroom functionality is a great feature to take advantage of. I can click over here on the left-hand side and it'll bring me to Showrooms. And I'm able to create showrooms by clicking Add Showroom in the top right-hand corner. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to display multiple 3D assets on the same page. So I can click over here and add these assets. Let's say they're part of the same collection. I could click Select All and it will add all of those assets. I can also search by tags or folders, just like I can on the dashboard or on the product page, to look for the assets that I want to include in my showroom. To change the order of assets and the way they appear in the showroom, I can just drag and drop and move them around. And it's super, super easy. I can name my showroom, so we'll call this Demo. And then I can add password protection if I like. My password program's automatically adding something. And then I can simply click Create. And so now that I click Create, you can see that I've got these products on the same page. And you'll also notice that any product that has attributes in it, those attributes will be displayed right here. And this is still internal facing right now. We haven't left the platform. To share the showroom, I click the share link, and what it's going to do is actually copy an embed link. And so then I will open a new tab, paste, and now I have a showroom. So within the showroom, any hotspots will be preserved. Everything can still be viewed in augmented reality. You can see that I've got all of my attributes right here. I can click on an individual file and view that in full screen or view it in AR. And we also will not load a product until you scroll over it. So this allows us to load multiple 3D assets on the same page. So it's a very useful feature for being able to share multiple assets, review them at once without having to jump to a bunch of different pages. And it's actually a feature that we're planning on expanding a lot on in 2023. So you'll see the ability to actually view multiple colorways within a single iframe within your showroom. So that's how you're able to use showrooms to share with other people in your organization and externally. When I'm in a folder, I have the ability to select multiple products and bulk edit or bulk download them. Here I've checked this, and so I've selected 50 products. I have the ability to delete a product, click edit with the pencil, or download a product. Editing a product, you can change any one of these settings. So you could change the pipeline and reprocess the assets with that. You could select a new preset, You could just change the geometry value. So let's say, for instance, I put this in at 50,000 instead of 75,000. And what I would see is that the texture compression settings, the Draco settings, everything else would remain the same on a per product basis, but all of them would be updated to the 50,000 poly limit. To edit the product, I would simply click Submit. You can also add metadata like tags or attributes from the screen. To download it, I can click the download button, and I have the option to download an optimized GLB, which is that GLB here, an FBX file that is meant for use in Game Engine, Unreal, and Unity. It will not work out of the box in places like Maya. USDZ file, which is used for Apple, or the original file. Or I can simply click Download All, and it will download all 4 of these for every single one of these products. I also have the ability to deactivate products. So if they're currently live, they will go to the draft state, or I can publish the products. So if they're in draft, they will be live and accessible. Finally, I have the ability to add these products to a configurator. On the analytics page of the platform, you can see how your products are performing in the real world. At the top, I can see the total number of products that I have on the platform, as well as the total number of 3D views, how many times it's been viewed in augmented reality, the percentage of users that are actually clicking on the model, which is how we define user engagement, and the average number of interactions or clicks per 3D model. Please note that we're unable to track how long users are spending in augmented reality because that is handled by ARKit and ARCore, which are native to Android and iOS. Here I can see my most viewed product is the women's rib dress and coat. It's been viewed 1,578 times. I can also see the total number of views by day that have been viewed in augmented reality. I can view which devices people have been accessing my products from, so desktop, mobile, or tablet. And I also have the ability to generate reports by searching through specific folders, specific tags, or individually clicking on them. To generate a new report, I'd simply click Generate Report, and it will generate a new report with this data. So out of these 3 products, Women's Puffer Outfit has been the #1 product in terms of views. You can also track domain source if you enter your domain source when you embed an iframe somewhere else. We'll get to that more on the product details page. You can download these reports by exporting them as a CSV file. Just click Export and we will give you a zip with a CSV file with all of the data that appears on this dashboard. When you first log into VNTANA, you're going to see the dashboard page. The dashboard page will show you the most recently updated products on your organization. Here I can see a product updated on December 7th, another product on December 3rd, and so on. The dashboard page also allows you to search all products across all folders in your organization. So I have the ability to use fuzzy search, so I could type in women's, or I could use a more exact search using my filters. So here under tags, I can type in women's and it will automatically pull that up. And now it will only display results that have the tag women's in the product. You can also search by folders or limit by folders, review states, and processing states. We also have global search in the top right-hand corner where you can type in keywords to quickly return results. If you want to search within an individual folder, you can either use the filters on the dashboard page, or you would click on products under a specific folder. When you search here, it will only search for products within that folder. So if, for instance, I had other products in my clothes folder or my footwear folder that had women's in the title, they would not appear if I search through here. To add a folder, you simply click Add Folder at the bottom of the dropdown. You can also manage folders under the folder section and add icons to make it easier to identify your different folders. To add and manage users on the platform, you're going to go to the Manage section in the bottom left-hand corner. Then you're going to click on Users. Here we'll show you your active users as well as your invited users. With the active users, you can see their role and the email address associated with that account. Invited are users who have been invited to the platform but haven't accepted the invitation yet. To invite a new user, simply click Invite New User in the top hand right corner. Here, my password software is auto-populating my email address, but you would just enter in the email of the person you want to invite, and then you're going to select their role. An organization admin has full rights to the organization. They can add people, delete people, add products, remove products, publish products, etc. Folder access user will have permissions only for a specific folder. And so I have the option to select all. And the reason I might want to do this is I want to give them a different level of access to a various number of folders. Or I can select just a specific folder that I want them to have access to. If they have access to specific folders, they won't be able to see any other folders, the fact that they exist, or any content in those folders. And then within that folder, I have 3 different roles I can pick. I can pick folder admin, which means they can add content, delete content, approve content, publish content, and by content I mean products. You have content manager, which has the ability to add, edit, and delete products on the platform, but not publish them, and guest. And guest has the ability to only view products and download them from within the VNTANA platform. So let's say I want to make them a content manager. I'd then click the plus sign, click invite, and an invitation will be sent out that the user can then accept. To revoke access for a user, I'm simply going to click on that user, or I'm going to click on, the 3 buttons on the right, click revoke access, and then I'll have the ability to revoke their access to the platform and their login will no longer work. VNTANA also has the ability to submit products for review and approval. Here I'm logged in as a super admin, and I can see the publish button is still available, which means my asset is not live yet. If I scroll down below, I can see the review state is listed as draft. If I jump over to a different account, where I'm a folder access user with the role of content manager, I see a different button appear, send for review. Here I can send it to any folder admin or organization admin for review and approval. Not everyone needs to approve this, just one person would need to approve it, but both of these people will receive notifications. So I'll click send, and we'll see that the review state has changed to in review. If I jump back over to my other account and I refresh the page, I can see the review state is review. And now I have 2 options. I can reject, or 3 rather. I can reject, approve, or approve and publish. If I approve, it still won't be live, but the content manager will know that I've signed off on this and it's ready to go live when I choose. I can still reject it at any time. Or I can click publish, and now this product is live. To generate an authentication key or API key on the VNTANA platform, you're going to come up to your profile in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Then you're going to click on Authentication Key in the top left. Here I have the ability to regenerate or revoke an authentication key, or generate one if it's my first time doing so. I'm going to click Regenerate Authentication Key, and here you can see a new key has been generated. After 30 seconds, this key will be encrypted. To copy it, I'll just click on that copy button, and now the key is copied to my clipboard. I can paste it into another document if I want to, or paste it directly into my plugin if I'm authenticating for Clo or Browseware or some of VNTANA's other plugins. You're going to want to keep this safe because after 30 seconds, you'll no longer be able to see that authentication key, but you always have the ability to regenerate a new one. The authentication key is tied directly to the user. So if access to the platform is revoked at the user level, the authentication key will expire. By the same token, if you have an authentication key for a user and that user only has access to a specific folder, they'll only be able to have access to that folder within the Browseware or Clo plugins, for instance, if you're uploading files to the VNTANA platform. When integrating with the VNTANA platform and using our API, you might want to leverage our webhooks. To leverage our webhooks, you go to the Manage section and come over here to webhooks. Webhooks act as push notifications. So rather than having to make an API call checking to see if an asset has finished processing or if new assets have been added, you can leverage webhooks to select specific events. So in this case, a product was added. I can save that. I can select where it applies. So if I want it to go to all my folders, I could go like that. And then I can enter in a name and a URL so I can subscribe to this webhook and receive the notifications about this event taking place. So it allows us to seamlessly connect the VNTANA platform to multiple other platforms and automate a lot of workflows by leveraging our webhooks. We also have complete API documentation on our resources page that you can feel free to view at any time. We update it very regularly.